Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of The Gavel, featuring attorney Ana Toledo. Ms. Toledo is the senior attorney and general counsel to Targeted Justice. She has a background in constitutional and environmental law and is an experienced litigator, including 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And here's Ms. Toledo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to this episode of The Gavel. I apologize for the delay on the 24-hour delay, but yesterday we were traveling from DC, and I really wanted to bring to you a full show, not a half one. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to proceed with reading from John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Everybody's talking about the murder of Charlie Kirk, who was an iconic, an incredible figure, a champion of free speech, but he had a really specific mission, and that was of educating the mind-controlled, woke, young generation that repeats what is told to them by these woke institutions. And I can tell you, I am a product of a super liberal education in Columbia College at Columbia University in New York. I thought Ronald Reagan was horrible. I would watch David Letterman every night at the college, at the dorm TV. But life took me to a place where I realized that it was all brainwashing and that it was not reality and that it was not a good place to be. Charlie Kirk was doing for the youth what no university is doing. He was teaching them about God, about the need to have God in your life, and about the truth that mainstream media doesn't tell you. So they say one martyr is worth 10,000 mercenaries. Charlie Kirk's legacy is going to live on for a long time. I doubt anybody can replace him because he was so unique. He was so fresh. He was so pure. He was so intelligent, so self-taught that I just hope a lot of people seek to imitate him and sort of fill the huge black hole he has left in our nation. For me, September 10th was a hard day in and of itself, because aside from losing this young man that had so much to give, on September 10th, 2020, the criminals killed, let me see, I don't know why I'm seeing it here, but I'm not, the criminals murdered my friend, remove from stage, there we go, there. Killed my friend with the heart attack gun that disconnects your heart's, the signal from your heart from the brain, or vice versa. So that was my friend Carlos, called like Charlie. Charlie is Carlos in Spanish. He was my beloved friend, and the criminals murdered him on September 10th, 2020. So please like, share, subscribe. The censorship is off the charts, particularly now that we came back from DC. The criminals are doing everything to hide us. So we really depend on you sharing and on you spreading the word about what we have to say. So please like, share, and subscribe, and repost our content. We depend on the right person at the right time seeing it and having the power to do something about it. As you all know, today is the anniversary of 9/11. And while we mourn for its victims, we must ponder over the fact that it was an entire operation set up to create the Stati state and the wicked, unacknowledged special access program that has taken the life of so many, that has obliterated the life of so many law abiding Americans and civilians around the world. It was created, I have no doubt in my mind that 9/11 was created, as this post here says, it was created to eliminate freedom as we knew it. The Senator Ron Johnson is reopening an investigation on 9/11. And I hope that in that investigation, it comes out that it was all set up, that, no plane crash Building 7. And eventually it'll be known that no plane crashed the towers. It was all that footage was provided to the news networks. And there is a lot of evidence that proves that it was controlled explosions that brought back down those buildings. It is no wonder that the really fancy and important executives that worked in those towers weren't there. In fact, my sister, who worked down there, she's a perp, of course, but she didn't go to work that morning either. Isn't that a coincidence? So I tell you that new things are going to be unraveled. And I hope, it is my hope, that the truth about the real reason behind, the real motive behind 9/11 was that it was created to start the Stasi state, the surveillance state, to deprive us of freedom as we knew it until then. It was the beginning of the government weaponization. 9/11, with the Patriot Act, with the terrorist screening database, with the fusion centers, was the beginning of the end of our freedom as we knew it. I'm going to go back to Charlie Kirk because obviously I don't want to just simply dismiss it as, I don't want to just dismiss it because he was, there is nothing I can say that is sufficient to express how much homage we should pay to this young man. But in Breitbart, they said it really well, and I'm going to read to you from Breitbart what they. Let me just share the screen here. Okay, here it is. Let's share this. So they say Charlie Kirk gave his life for free speech and America. Charlie Kirk was assassinated doing what he loved and what he did so well. He was exercising his right to free speech and encouraging civil dialogue among any who would participate, wrote Baber's editor-at-large Joel Pollack. The important thing about this travesty is that the liberals cannot, since they could not defeat his verb, his message, they had to silence it, just as they do with us. Since they cannot tolerate our truth, they have to censor us and demote us. And it is time for every single one of you to not stand up for that and just fight back. We need to take our nation back from these criminals. That it's like the kindergarten kid that if they cannot play with a toy, they'll break it. We have to stop that. And it starts at the FBI. We have to create that awareness. So Ty Clavenger, who is an amazing attorney in Dallas, he has been fighting the FBI criminals that don't want to give them the access to the Seth Rich laptop contents because they continue to fight him. Well, he posted this really great post on X. I urge you to follow him because he's a really smart man to follow. And so Ty Clavenger, and excuse me if I pronounce it wrong. Yeah, I have to tell people if I pronounce things wrong, don't be offended because my native language is Spanish and the words are pronounced differently. The vowels are pronounced differently. So listen, he says here, this has got to be of all the Charlie Kirk's posts that our community has seen. This is the most important one, and I'm going to read it because we need to be really aware of this. The FBI Kash Patel hasn't done enough to change the narrative. It's time to turn the tables and focus on the real threat, Director Kash Bondi. During the Biden regime, the FBI regularly harped about the dangers of right-wing extremism. Anybody who supported Donald Trump. And on that basis, it targeted conservative Catholics, parents at school board meetings, and thousands of peaceful protesters at January 6th, even grandmothers that were praying there. So the threat was grossly exaggerated and often fabricated. Contrast that with the left-wing extremism and radical Islam, which are far greater internal threats to the US than Catholicism or concerned parents, or whistleblowers for that matter. Devote resources. This is a message to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino that they don't realize where the real threat lies. In those radical liberals that go around threatening people, vandalizing Teslas just because of Elon Musk, and hurting anybody and anyone who doesn't think like them. Devote resources where they are needed and target those who are truly the greatest threat to our civil liberties. Instead of infiltrating a bunch of hapless rednecks and trying to induce them to kidnap a governor, infiltrate Antifa and its ilk. You won't have to induce them to anything. So, yeah, follow him. He is amazing. And this echoes the Newsweek article of 2023, where it says that the FBI had created a new category of extremists that it seeks to track and counter: Donald Trump's army of MAGA followers. Okay, I know most of you were targeted before MAGA and before Donald Trump, but I do know that in 2016, I was raised to level 3 to handling code 3 because I was a staunch Donald Trump supporter. And I don't apologize for it. For those of you that don't like him, that's your thing. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I have a First Amendment right to decide who I support. And so do many of you, every one of you. That doesn't mean that I should be tortured because of that. That doesn't mean that my conversations on should be listened to and my emails intercepted. Let me tell you, all our emails to the congressmen and women and senators were intercepted. We had to go there in person to get our voices heard. Because these criminals at the FBI continue to illegally to lie under oath to the FISA court to continue intercepting and listening to our conversations. But that's going to end soon because you know what? Charlie Kirk's death is not going to be in vain. It's going to unravel huge amounts of pushback against these criminals, starting at the FBI. Mr. Patel better start cleaning up his act and cleaning up that agency full of liberals that are full of hatred for anybody that is not a Democrat. So now the challenge for the FBI is to pursue and prevent what it calls domestic terrorism without direct reference to political parties or affiliations. Now, having said that, prior to getting murdered, Charlie Kirk was giving a lot of attention of the slaughtered Ukrainian refugee Irina Sarutska. He was bringing attention to it because of the rogue court system that is allowing criminals on the street. In this particular case, the man that murdered this woman, this young woman, had been arrested a lot of times. And let me put it here. A lot of times. And recently, a magistrate who is not even, as I believe, she's not even an attorney. Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes freed the Carlos Brown Jr. in January, allowing him, he has a litany of previous arrests, including armed robbery and assault. He just walked free on a promise that he would return for his next court appearance. Now, what I'm going to tell you is what is really crucial to our community. Okay, and it's the following. The sister of the murderer, I think the CIA is going crazy. They really are. The sister of the, if there's perps in the chat, let me tell you, I will ban you when you're not going to distract me. I will ban you eventually. Because if you're here trying to distract and disrupt, you are as a criminal as the person that shot Charlie Kirk, because you're trying to curtail my speech and the attention from the people. So just so you know, I don't have time for you now. I will eventually. Now get a load of this criminal. The sister of the Carlos Brown said the following, that he blamed materials inside his body for causing him to kill Irina Sarutska. And then he told his family that he stabbed her to death on board a train in Charlotte, North Carolina, because he believed she was reading his mind, his sister claimed. For those of you, and I'm not going to put it here because it's so disturbing, just like Charlie Kirk's murder. It's so disturbing. I'm not going to repeat the violence, but here's what happened. She was sitting in front of him with a cell phone, just tapping on her cell phone. I have no doubt this man had V2K, and the V2K was telling him, she's reading your mind, whatever. Who knows if they were even using her voice? Okay. I have no doubt that the indication that he said that he had materials inside his body and that he thought she was reading his mind, that sounds to me like Stephen Muldrow in Ohio. It's a victim of V2K who doesn't even know it's a technology, doesn't even know he's being tortured. And this is why they need to pull the plug on the CIA domestic operations. CIA flying monkeys, clowns, domestic operations under the Denver airport. I don't know why they're going so crazy going around killing people, but I have no doubt that there is also CIA mind control behind the criminal that murdered Charlie Kirk. I have no doubt about it. And as long as Pete Hegseth, Dan Bongino, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and President Trump don't rein in the abuses of the intelligence community, these shootings and these killings are going to continue because these people are out of control. They are afraid. They are so afraid. They think, this is what I think, what they think, that creating havoc this way is going to make the country into a police state, which is what they want. What President Trump needs to do is to demand, I want to see the firing logs for the Space Force for GPS coordinates within the United States. When he gets the hundreds of thousands of hits a day in our nation, the second question is, who are you firing these at, you traitors? That is why we need each and every one of you that didn't go, I'll talk about targeted action, that didn't go to targeted action. You need to ask for a meeting with your congressman or woman in your district. and prepare for it and bring the receipts, because this man clearly is a victim of mind control by the CIA. And anybody who says the contrary, well, is not, it's not a TI, is not a real TI. Because here's the thing: they make you, they mind control people, and it's a discipline. It's a discipline for you to walk down the street and not think that somebody is doing something to you with a phone. Even even for me, because since I have all these implants, even for me, it takes a lot of discipline. Because even if they are using somebody else's phone to attack your implants through Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, maybe the person doesn't even know. So it is a real challenge, but it's one that we can overcome, because if we've come so far, we can continue doing it. Now let me show you. I wanted to show you. It has been very sad that some of these Democrats and these woke people have celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. And Laura Loomer has, and many people have been saying that. And I'm just going to put this one here so you see it. That people are actually celebrating the passing of this young man that left behind a wife and 2 children, orphan. Yeah, because because his verb could not be defeated. And so Laura Loomer and many others are bringing attention. This is a guy that works for FEMA, and he was celebrating. He works for FEMA, which is it's under DHS. Kristi Noem needs to fire this person immediately. But what is even scarier is that his father is a general at the Pentagon that is still working at the Pentagon. These are the kind of people that need to be rooted out because they have evil in their hearts. They cannot respect anybody having a different opinion from them. And so make viral these, it is time to make viral these people, because people should know, and Kristi Noem should be pressured to remove the people from their jobs. This is completely unacceptable. It's not about free speech, because they are promoting violence. And there's even people that are that had put out a list of other people that they wish didn't exist. So I'm going to show you this picture has been, I don't know if it's accurate, but supposedly the footage of at that Utah college where Charlie Kirk was, this is a footage of the man that has been traced to have been the sniper. This is a very, very able person that had, obviously had training, just like the guy in Pennsylvania that tried to kill President Trump. And but this one was successful at his attempt. So share this picture around, because this is the person that is wanted for investigation, for interrogation on Charlie Kirk's murder. Now, let's go for the good news. Targeted action. We had an incredible event this weekend, and I first want to thank all of you that went there and that sacrificed yourselves and that did the good work. One of the things that the criminals cannot stop and cannot censor, total 100% analog, is holding a banner in front of a lot of traffic, in front of important offices. They can't stop that. And even though they did try to stop us, because the physical torture was off the charts to the point of tears, and also they would send us policemen to intimidate us. But of course, we were like, look, I'm exerting my First Amendment right to publicly protest. So what are you going to do? We were standing for maybe 4 hours in front of the White House executive building that is across the United States Trade Office. Well, the people at the trade office called the DHS police on us, and they came to interrogate us and see why were we were there, because we were making ugly their building with all the Don Bongino and the Cash Patel signs. So we didn't budge, and they did, but they left them there watching over our group, because clearly they were told that we were terrorists, right? So, Targeted Justice and I personally want to thank you for all the volunteers and the members that made the Targeted Action 2025 a big success. It was a huge event. In the coming days, I'm going to be posting short clips because we had testimony from the people that wanted to be on camera, and I'm going to be posting it. And I just ask you, please repost it, because and tagging Tulsi, tagging Patel, tagging all these people, because once you tag them in their official accounts, this cannot be erased. This goes to their permanent record. They cannot say they did not know. So I'm going to be putting those short clips. I'm going to put them also on targetedjustice.com and all our social media. I want to give a special shout out to the warriors that went up Embassy Row and distributed flyers, because, as you know, 95% of the victims of this heinous program occur outside of the United States. And many of these people don't even know what is happening to them. So they went up and down Massachusetts Avenue, which is called Embassy Road. And it was really great. We rallied at the Lincoln Memorial and did a live stream of it. So for those of you that couldn't see it, I urge you to go to our Rumble channel and watch it there. The same with the Jefferson Memorial. We took banners and flyers to the DOJ, to the FBI headquarters, which are in front of DOJ. And it was really a great experience, because on the second day, Mr. Patel went by twice and saw the banners. And it was a really great experience, because that is something that the criminals could not censor, could not hack. And that is the importance of showing up and fighting for freedom, peacefully, of course. So we went to see congressmen and senators, aides. I personally, and I'm going to be writing about it in my Substack, I was honored to be in and talk to him, Senator Ron Johnson's hearing on the corruption of the doctors with the vaccines. And it was so amazing. It was so amazing to be there, to be part of history, because history is in the making. Pharma companies and doctors are going to be held accountable for lying to so many millions of people. And so more is going to come of that. I'm going to write what my impressions about it. And the most painful thing is that many of us thought that doctors were our friends, but they're so ignorant that even the doctor, the pro-vaxxer doctor there, didn't even know how the mRNA vaccine worked. Senator Johnson asked him, "Do you know how it works?" And he's like, he didn't know. So Dr. Robert Malone was there. It was very interesting. I was there with Dr. Sally Priester, who is one of our board members, and it was a genuinely interesting hearing. So I'm going to be writing about that later. We distributed hundreds of flyers. I want to give a shout out to Susan, our star flyer. She would be awesome. She was like, you guys, you really should print out, go to a cheap print place and print out the Burns the Burns flyer that we uploaded it. And she was good. She's like, this is your taxpayer money being used to target women, to torture women. And it catches the attention of people. She was really, really good. Thank you, Susan. She was relentless. We proved that TIs, there was no incidents, no accidents for all of you that didn't go because, oh, there's going to be terrorism or we're going to get arrested. No, we proved that, first of all, when you have a big group, you can protect yourself, you can protect each other, you rally for each other, and they don't dare. The most they could do is try to throw a mouse at you, as they did in one of the restaurants. You know how they are, since they're vermin, they relate to these creatures. So they threw a mouse at us. I saw that, but it doesn't face me any longer because I know they're more scared than us, of us than us of them. So, but no, there was no arrest, there was no violence, everything went really well. And for that, I am grateful to every single participant that went there. I was moved to see the compassion in the members of our community with each other. There was one TI that got there all scared and skittish, and by the second day, she was already comfortably talking to her fellow TIs. And for that, I feel immensely grateful because I know that she will be more empowered to do what needs to be done, which is, without any shyness, go speak to her representatives, senators. So this is no time to stop. I have come to realize that I decided, and I just know how to figure it out. I need to move there because I need to, every single day of my life, walk all the halls of all those buildings and be knocking on doors until this program is shut down. Just going there for, we were there for 6 days, and it's not enough. It really isn't enough to do everything we need to do. So I'm going to, on the coming weeks, I'm going to figure out how I can make it to just move there and fight every day to shut this down, because senators and representatives are aware of it. They just need to know how to help us. Like, one of them asked us in one of the meetings that a beloved TI coordinated from Florida. He said, well, okay, this is all fine, but how do the senator and myself help you without getting targeted? And that is what's, at least he said it, but that's in the mind of them all. And so what we need to make sure is that we give them the tools. First of all, support Ana Paulina Luna's American Privacy Restoration Act. Second of all, defeats FISA 702. It's illegal surveillance in violation of the Fourth Amendment of Americans. Number 3, include civilians in the Havana Act of 2021. That doesn't take much. It's just, hey, why should we discriminate against civilians and only include federal employees that have good health care, for example, that don't have to worry about getting medical treatment, right? So those are things that are actionable, that are within their purview, and don't entail the need for them to openly say, I want to end the unacknowledged special access targeted individual program. They don't have to identify as that. They can just do what their conscience as an American that respects the Constitution tells him or her to do. And for that, we're counting on each and every one. This has not stopped. This has just begun. We need you now to coordinate those meetings with your legislators. That's what we need you to do with your representatives in your districts. If you need materials, I will email them to you, and I will continue to be making posts and just figuring it out how to do what I need to do, because I've decided, I have to go there and every day become a presence in all those offices. I did talk to somebody who's up there with Mr. Kennedy, and I said, you know about Havana syndrome, the silent epidemic in our nation? And she said, we're fighting 5G and we know about it. So it's not that like Ron Johnson said, and let me read to you in the hearing that I went with Senator Johnson. His words were really enlightening because he said these things. He said, number one, we know it's happening. We know, give me just one moment. Okay, here's what he said, which to me, he said it in the context of the vaccines, but it also applies in the context of this program. Listen to this. He said, Nobody wants to admit it. Okay, nobody wants to admit the harm that is that was perpetrated and it's been perpetrated. Nobody wants to bear the cost. And he mentions we have I don't know how many trillion deficit because the price tag is high. However, it is up to us to educate them. It's not just the United States that's going to bear the cost. We have Crown Castle, we have AT&T, we have Leidos Corporation, we have L3 Harris, we have Lockheed, we have Boeing, all of those huge corporations that have colluded with the criminals to make this program happen. All of which, without whom it couldn't have happened. Because if it was just the government, it wouldn't have happened. So, in this context, when Ron Johnson says nobody wants to bear the cost, well, the cost can be distributed. And I dare say that it can be mostly handled by private industry, the doctors, the hospitals that profited from implanting us. Lockheed Martin that has profited with its defense contracts to track us. Boeing, the same. Crown Castle that has profited from its weaponized cell towers that are directed energy weapons. AT&T that got billions in contracts just to allow this to happen, and so more. And then the third thing he says, but we need to keep an open mind. So this is what we need to portray to the congressmen and women that you need to approach and speak to. Okay, I'm going to check out some comments here. FBI, yeah, what FBI needs to do is wake up. Mr. Patel ran his nomination to the FBI on the precept that he's going to shut down the deep state. The Hoover building is still there and they're still going in. And you have to see these people, they're like zombies walking into work. So FBI is the biggest thing that needs to solve. Okay. I don't see, let me see any comments. Okay. Well, as I said, hello everybody. Thank you for being here. I think we had a very, very successful week, and we're just all exhausted because we were physically attacked like you have no idea. I mean, I was attacked to the point of tears on various occasions, including the airplane, but that didn't deter us, and it's not going to stop us. They first have to kill me for me to stop doing what I'm doing. So I just urge you to also do your part. Share, subscribe, like, subscribe to our Rumble channel, share it with non-TIs and our social media, become a digital warrior. And let's just keep doing what we're doing because we're doing it right. A lot of people know that this is happening. They're just trying to figure out a way to shut it down. And so let's give them a means of, let's give them a means to so that's all I had to say. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you next week. I know we're going to have a lot of good news because unfortunately, I think that Charlie Kirk's death is going to create an avalanche of reform and change. And that's what we need. That's what we need to happen. That we need for the people at the FBI and at the DHS to realize that they have too many rotten apples they need to get rid of. So in the meantime, thank you so much for your unconditional support. And if you have any suggestions regarding my relocation to DC, I'm going to see what I do. I need to do it because that is the one way that I am absolutely certain they cannot stop. Analog is the only way they cannot stop us from doing what we need to do. Thank you so much.